Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, May 6th, and this is the AgYield War Room. I'm Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you get any questions or comments, please feel free to drop us a line in the chat area. I'll be sure to get to it during the show. Quickly here, overnight markets at July corn up 2.5 at 456 3/4. July soybeans were down 2 3/4 at 1042 3/4. And July Chicago wheat was up 5 at 536 1/4. No export sales announcements here this morning. Yesterday afternoon, we got crop progress and conditions. Corn 40% planted. That was against 24% last week and just slightly above the average at 39%. Soybeans 30% planted. That was a big jump from the previous week, up from 18%. And 23% is the average there. So good speed on the beans. Spring wheat 44% planted. That's 30 against 34% for the average there. So again, kind of ahead of pace on the spring wheat. And winter wheat ratings once again increased this week, up 2 percentage points to 51% in the good excellent category, and that is higher than the 5-year average of 42%. So with that, guys, good morning. Real good weather outlook here for the next 12 to 14 days. And then honestly, this morning, what was interesting is they put some more rain in to kind of the end of that time frame. So you look at this morning's weather and you're got a pretty good planting pace followed by water. So kind of a good scenario there for getting this crop off to a good start. With that, Ben, maybe throw us off with a few comments here this morning. Start us off with a few comments here this morning, and then we'll throw it around the room.
I think the thing that I see this morning that is a little bit perplexing is the CFTC put an announcement out. And for people that aren't familiar, the CFTC is a regulatory agency of commodity trading. And they put out a notice, and I'm going to read it verbatim because I don't want to mince words. I don't want to give any innuendo of what it may or may not mean. But May 5th, the CFTC is committed to holding employees to the highest standards as expected by American taxpayers. Pursuant to the President's executive orders on lawful governance and accountability, the CFTC has placed staff on administrative leave for potential violations of laws, government ethics requirements, and professional rules of conduct. Investigations are currently ongoing in these matters, and CFTC will provide updates as appropriate. I've never seen anything like that, and I don't know what it means. And you could go down a bunch of rabbit holes, but I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Justin, any thoughts? I personally don't have an opinion. I think it's interesting, but what do you make of it?
Yeah, it's very bizarre. It'd just be speculation on on my end, so I have no idea. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Is it giving data insider stuff? Is it allowing participants to do things? I have no idea. Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty big announcement to make. So kind of makes it sound like systemic versus like a person. So I don't know what it means, to be honest with you.
Man, I wish it was for putting out false news headlines that spook the market and then they recant them. I wish they'd go up to that stuff.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, getting back to the markets here, Dustin, give some thoughts on what you saw yesterday there and kind of what your outlook is here this morning. Got outside markets kind of getting weaker here as we go on.
Yeah, outside market's a little weaker. I think that's spilling over into the currencies a bit too. Gold is, or not gold. Corn has been very weak here. We're back down to the lows last week, and the July-Dec spread. We've been talking about that. Like that has really been having a pretty big move. One of the first days, this low in a while. Is that from old crop farmers selling? Is it because the Brazilian weather has been conducive? The fact that it's been led by old crop though is definitely a just a kind of a sign of a bearish move that is sustainable. We get down to some of these levels though, like these corn right now, 442 3/4. That's below a lot of like where ECO would trigger. That's the crop insurance policy that a lot of people bought up this year because of the increased subsidy. If your county hits average yields, ECO is starting to kick in right around 446.5. What percentage of growers chose a policy like that is hard to know. But pre-pollination, not knowing how the season's going to go, you start trading into the low 440s, low 430s. It's just hard to imagine that that's a good risk reward of selling when you're this far below cost reduction if you're already in some of these government payments or crop insurance payments. So we'll see if they test that bottom end again. What was that low in March? So right during that report release, we hit 436.5. We're within range of that today right now.
And you got be interesting to be a fly on the wall. You got President Trump meeting with the Prime Minister of Canada here this morning, which should be interesting. It'll be what they come out from there. Also, I saw Ford this morning delayed their guidance, with so many uncertainties. So I think that's honestly got the outside markets. And then Fed announcement tomorrow. You got a 2.7% chance of a cut, but I think everybody's looking for what Powell's going to say and in his opinions there too. So, throwing quite a bit of news here, and then we still wait to see if we can get any kind of announcements on trade deals. That's just kind of slogging along, dragging along. There's nothing really fresh going on. It's the same rhetoric over and over.
Yeah, I think obviously trade deals will be really important here. I'm personally looking at like India, for example. I think it's an important one. You see that Apple, said they're moving all their Chinese manufacturing to India in the next 12 to 18 months. That means to me that they've already had it started. But really, if you look at population, cost, education level, India might be the only place where you could move such a large scale of manufacturing as a partner from China for U.S. companies. So I think that's a really important, because a lot of these big tariffs, like what's the actual play? Like we don't have hundreds of millions of extra people to take over all these jobs, right? Mm-hmm. So there's got to be some strategic play there. So that's kind of what I'm curious about, how the those Asian deals kind of work out for several of the areas or countries in those areas. Another thing I thought was interesting was the All In podcast, which I like to watch, but they had Secretary of Ag there on Friday and just talked about ag policy and big farmer supporter, obviously, but specifically mentioned the Farm Bill and specifically mentioned that reference prices haven't changed since beginning of Trump's first term, and they haven't changed relative to current conditions, those kinds of things. So I think there's some of the rhetoric makes it sound like there's going to be more and more support programs. You can argue that's not great, but I know there was a story kind of people talking about the reference price or some of the Farm Bill levels being improved to help out. So again, not saying it's good or bad or but
she kind of talked.
What was her point? What was her point on that, Justin? What was her point on the reference? That they need to be increased, or
yeah? That was what I took away from it. That they should be, Farm Bill should be strengthened. Until she's like, farmers can't make money. They should be able to produce a crop and make money. Now that that's, you can't spend whatever you want and still make money. But that being said, I think it certainly sounded like there was going to be more focus on improving that. The talk was 85% of the farm bills, SNAP and different programs like that. Only 15% ag. And those other areas have increased dramatically of the Farm Bill, but not the farm portion of it. So I would expect more support coming towards that.
Jace, what'd you have to add to that?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say she did talk both sides of that argument too, right? She said it's not ideal, right? Farmers don't want handouts. We want to strengthen the demand side of the equation and ideally get off of any kind of farm subsidy, right? I think that's where she started in the conversation, but you're right? She said that, in this time frame or, that transition period between now and hopefully strengthening that side of the equation, farmers need support. So,
yep. Yeah, so it was big talking to obviously these trade talks.
Yeah.
Right. Trying to build a big demand base, but in the short run, making sure we don't bankrupt the farmer. So, similar to Trump, version 1, right?
Yeah. Well, that kind of plays into what you said yesterday too, Justin. You look at new crop corn and it's, there's nothing exciting here, but you do have the opinion that if things got real bloody, that like they're gonna in some capacity take care of the farmer.
Yeah, that's the tricky part we're at here. It's like trying to, and not to say this in the wrong way, but it's like you have all these government support programs that are, between crop insurance, farm bill, that are here, or, basically at these levels. And then, worrying about a big crop and what if we go to $3, and trying to have a really balanced approach to what that means. If you just say, okay, I'm going to sell it all at 440 because I think it's going to 3, and what repercussions that could hold if you were wrong, something happened, weather problem. We seem very content with a really good crop because it's getting planted. Things can change quick. So you just have to factor in, what does that mean if I sell it at 440 and my yield's 15% below average and we have a rally? Like, did I just lock myself into a massive loss? So that's my opinion. You gotta be super balanced here, what that means. And a lot of times it kind of stinks being the only one that's worried about it getting hedged and trying to manage your risk. And then something does happen and the rest of the market gets, bailed out. And then you're the one kind of stuck with a big loss. So it's a really sticky spot here. It's why we talked about this kind of area, just choppy. As you get much below this, it just makes less and less economic sense to be aggressively bearish, at least on today's date. Now, the only reason you would, my opinion, to be really bearish at 440 on a personal level is that you start getting further down the road, your yields are 5-10% or more above normal, where that effective floor gets dropped down. But on today's date, I think that's kind of a mistake.
So in either scenario, it's doing the work, putting the work in to understand what it all means, how they're all coming together. I mean, that's the main takeaway, right?
Yeah, I don't think you can be lazy in this environment here. I think you can get in big trouble if you just take a strong opinion and really you're just speculating. Usually like hedging, right, it's pretty straightforward. But when you have all these other tools and you just decide I'm going to sell all my crop before I grow it,
that's just a trade.
Then it's just a trade. It's a speculation. It's different when you have real big margins and you're leaning on crop insurance and you've got guaranteed bushels and there's a strategy behind it. But just to blindly get sold and not really think about what it means, I think is a big mistake.
Very good. We've got a couple of minutes here. Ryland, let's talk about livestock. That's just continues to be exciting. New contract highs and a huge jump in open interest. Hogs on the other side, a lot of the big action was in the deferreds with new highs out there. So give us some thoughts here this morning.
Yeah, I think just overall, like we said, just kind of keeps on going here. There just really isn't any bad news. You had beef prices, still higher. Choice was up 67, Select was up 272, and I think there's just a lot of attention getting drawn to the just massive volume in cash last week. So, I mean, it seems like the Packers want inventory, and I think just the idea is that they're going to try to keep beef prices rather stable, unless they really just start cutting back kills. So we'll see. The kill was up a little bit this week. We'll see how this plays out. But overall, just once again, good news. Probably looking for some kind of weakness here, but every little bit of weakness here has been bought really aggressively. So want to see that trend continue, especially just during this time frame where seasonally prices typically stay rather strong just over the next 4 to 5 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. Again, just waiting to see some more Packer bids here. There were some initial bids in the South at 218. So it seems like Packers are coming after it. I bet that got the market pretty excited yesterday. And if we see any more of that, I think it's just going to be more of the same. So for right now, it's just going to be watching to see if there's any early indications that Packers are still going to come after some bigger volume this week. But yeah, hog market just kind of mixed yesterday. Obviously, the cash market was a little bit lower last night at 89.96 on 155. Carcass was also lower at 96.66 down 172. So you got a little bit of weaker news on that front. Maybe that kind of stalls things out a little bit, but it just seems like more so of a sideways chop, just kind of trending a little bit weaker, struggling with that 10-day moving average. We just need some better news, and it feels like the market's trying to hold on to this idea that maybe we'll get some better headlines, maybe we'll see some trade deals. Aside from that, there just really hasn't been any kind of new update on that front. So we'll see how we react, but generally kind of a weaker tone going in the hogs going into today.
Very good. Appreciate the update here. Just came into the open. Got July corn up 2 3/4 at 457. July soybeans are down 3.5 at 1042. And July Chicago wheat is up 4 1/4 at 535 3/4. I appreciate everybody that tunes in on a daily basis. If you wouldn't mind, throw us a like and certainly subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything to do so. It'll keep you up to speed on everything that's going on with AgYield. So again, thanks to everybody that supports the show. We're doing this live every morning that the markets are open at 8:15 Central Time on X, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. Appreciate the thoughts and comments here this morning, guys. It was a good show. Hope everybody has a great day, and we look forward to talking to you again tomorrow.
The War Room is proudly presented by AgYield. For over 50 years, the AgYield team has provided grain marketing and risk management solutions for growers across the country. Our veteran consultants harness cutting-edge technologies to pinpoint risk, optimize market performance, and protect your farm's profitability. Discover a new approach to farm revenue management at agyield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.